You're tuned in to Steve Megatron on Altered Geek.
Do you start your day deciding which video game you're gonna play? You fight with your family over which is better, Marvel or DC. The geek of all of your friends, cause you know what Batman beats Superman. This is the right place to be, so turn up the volume cause you're an altered geek. Altered geek. Get altered. Geek, geek, geek. Altered geek. From Star Wars to Star Trek, comics to tech. Altered geek. Get altered. Geek, geek, geek. Altered geek. Pull up a chair cause you're an altered geek.
Hello and welcome to Altered Geek. I'm your host, Steve Megatron Phillips, and in this episode of the podcast, I am planning on talking about a multitude of things since I've just come back from my experimental trip to Texas, which, to kind of recap a little bit, I went down there and it was interesting. I'd never been in that big of a city before. I'm not going to talk any specifics of the trip, but the massive amount of traffic was just overwhelming. I've never seen that much traffic in my life. Because I live in Michigan, it's not commonplace to have that much traffic or to have 6 expressways stacked on top of each other, and an expressway that goes to an expressway that goes to an expressway that gets off at an exit that makes a U-turn, which the U-turns there is really odd because in Michigan you can't make a U-turn. There's no legal U-turns. But you can make a legal U-turn at an intersection in the middle of a road. They have designated spots for it, but it's legal. I've never experienced a lot of that stuff, so it was a little bit different and nerve-wracking to drive in the Dallas area. And the fun aspect of it is that one, it's insane. The traffic, I can't even. It was so overwhelming at one point because I wasn't used to it when we eventually got lost at a certain point in our driving, looking at apartments and everything. I had to pull over and park for a minute and kind of just take a breather, which is why my wife did not drive down there. It terrified her more than it did me, but still, it was insane. Traffic did move, though, surprisingly, whereas when I drove through Chicago, it was terrible there, but they don't have the expressway stacking, so traffic is at a standstill, whereas there it was like you could still be moving at 50, which was still decently cruising, but it was hard to get over. But yeah, the trip was overall not bad, and the temperatures were hot. Whereas here in Michigan, we came back and it was 70 degrees, and then it's since dropped to like 50, 60 something. So the temperature was nice down there as well. But I have quite a bit to talk about on this podcast. First up, I'm going to hit listener feedback from the previous episode. And this one is from Haley Bailey. She says, I was curious if you've ever played DC Online and your thoughts on that. Well, first of all, I have played DC Online multiple times. I didn't play it when it was pay to play, or you had to buy the game and then pay subscription. Kind of like what happened with Star Trek Online. I didn't buy that either, or play it when it was pay to play. I waited until it was free and then I played it. And then I've never. I've dumped a little bit of money into Star Trek Online at one time. DC Online, never done that. Never planned to. I just played with what was in the game and then just kind of left it at that. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the character creation. I tried to make as Batman Flash-esque character that I could create, which actually influenced the characters from my Altered Generations screenplay that I wrote in my classes. And he had super speed, but had some of the capabilities of Batman, and so it was kind of nice. But yeah, I enjoyed that game a lot. I played it a few years ago. I think I played it like about a year and a half ago was the last time I played that game. And I was playing it off and on for, I think, about 5 years. So periodically I'll uninstall it, reinstall it, play it, not play it. And so, yeah, I think it's good, but there's a lot of limitations to it, and some of the battles are almost impossible to get past, kind of like in Star Trek Online, unless you have help. So, as for Injustice 2, I will not be picking it up. I had Injustice 1 when I had my Xbox 360. I played it. I enjoyed it for what it was. And I do enjoy the graphics, and I do enjoy the storyline that's supposed to go with it, but for me, like, I don't play fighting games anymore, like, and it has nothing to do with my church-going transformation over the last year. It's just I kind of outgrew it. I never really was a fan of like the NetherRealm studio games, like Mortal Kombat or any of that kind of stuff. I was more of a Dragon Ball Z kind of fighter game person. So I never really got into the Injustice. I did play it, but it just was button mashing for me, and I didn't really care for it all that much. Whereas the other one, it was more of a, you have to do a combo and you have to create, and I know you create combos in this too, and it's not just that. I didn't personally care for the first one. So I probably will not be playing the second one. I might play a demo if I find one available, which seems to be infrequent online anymore. But it does look awesome, but I probably won't play it. And then kind of jumping back into the comments about my trip, everybody stays at hotels when they go on these trips. Well, I was kind of complaining of the fact that I wish the hotels would allow you to hook up your own HDMI devices to the television. Because I brought my portable PC, which is about, it's about 5x5. It's a square box, and it's about an inch thick. And it's got Windows 10. It dual boots Windows 10 or Android 5.0 on it. And it works great. I use it for my television. I use it for my Netflix, Hulu. I use it for my streaming. I even have an external Blu-ray player that I hook up to it. And it's great for having a PC on the go. The only downside is some hotels allow you to use the HDMI and others do not. This one, I think the TVs were pre-programmed not to be able to use it because I could switch the source and it would never actually activate on any other source but standard cable TV. And I tried unplugging stuff, unscrewing stuff, trying to plug in my own PC, and it would not let me at all. So I was kind of disappointed of that because that's how I was planning on accessing my bookmarks and a lot of the stuff that we were going to be looking at or checking out while we were down there. So we had to do it over our phone, which is unfortunate. Plus, I don't like a lot of the garbage that's on TV at those hotels. They didn't even have, this was the thing, they didn't even have anything special to their TV program where you could even order anything. So I didn't see the point in having HDMI ports not functional. Because most of the time when you get a hotel, they have their pre-programmed menu, and they have their special remote, and they have the special, you pay-per-view, take, $10 to rent a movie, whatever. They had none of that. It was just a base, like, Dynex Best Buy brand TV, and that was it. It was a 32-inch TV, and I went to go hook up my HDMI. It did not work. I was quite disappointed about it, and Scanner51 on Twitter says a lot of hotels are doing this now, tampering with the HDMI ports, or they use TVs that don't have any. A lot of them don't really have that option anymore. If they want to go flat screen, they all come with HDMI. I think they just disable them. He says he takes his Chromecast with him all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've tried it numerous times at hotels that I've gone to, and it doesn't matter if it's like high rent hotels or low rent hotels. I haven't had any luck with it. And I've even tried hooking my cell phone up because I have one, you can hook it up USB a lot of the time, or you can. I have an adapter that converts, like the mini USB, mini HDMI thing that goes to the bottom of my Galaxy S5, and allows me to hook it up to another USB device where I can kind of, because it's got the female port on the end of it, so I can plug in the male port to it. So like for instance, I've plugged in my Blue Yeti microphone to my cell phone and used it as a microphone, and it works awesome. Much better than the microphone on the phone itself. However, it's definitely it would definitely be a big haul for that big microphone plus a battery eater. So I haven't actually done that on the go. If I got a smaller microphone, I might do that, like a smaller Blue branded microphone, because I've had great luck with them, and I'm really a fan of the brand, as it were. So I don't want to kind of deviate from that brand when I get my microphones for PC purposes. So in other news, I am fully done with school. I'm pretty sure I said that last episode, but I can't remember 100% on that. So in another 4 weeks, I should be getting my degree diploma, and I'm quite excited to be done. And now that I'm done with school, that means that I don't have it cutting out this huge chunk of my day anymore. And I learned quite a bit, and some aspects I didn't really learn as much as I'd hoped, but some things I did learn that a lot of it I learned, but as for the software and some of the editing, I already kind of knew how to do it because I taught myself and watched a lot of tutorials. So with that said, I'm going to jump into the geeky news that I've compiled over the last week and a half. Some of it new, some of it not. And so yeah, be back after the break. Do you want to interact with the show? Well, you can get a hold of us in the following ways. You can email us, feedback@alteredgeek.com, or you can fill out the form on the website on alteredgeek.com. You can also get on the episode post on alteredgeek.com and make your comments there. You can, of course, get a hold of us on the social media, Facebook @AlteredGeek, or on Twitter @AlteredGeek. And, of course, you can find the show on the following locations. You can get it on iTunes, on Google Play, on Stitcher, and on TuneIn, Blog Talk Radio, as well as alteredgeek.com. And now, back to the show. And we're back. So, first up, the new Star Trek Discovery first look trailer dropped. Can't say I'm all that impressed. It starts off with two characters, the captain and first officer, and they almost look like they're wearing the same clothes as Rey in The Force Awakens. And what I take away from this whole thing is that it's very polished. It does not look like it fits between Enterprise and the original series. It looks like it should have been way later. The sand looks super real. The sky looks super real. Because they're supposed to be traversing Vulcan. The first officer is an emotional Vulcan, first of all. And the captain's making this remark that, isn't it time you get your own ship? And then they have the communicator, the handheld. It looks close to, the close to the Kirk era, but it looks more like a Motorola Razr cell phone, upon first look. Then it shows the ship coming through the atmosphere. The warp speed looks like it's something from the Abrams verse. The ship looks like it's a cross between something from the Abrams verse and Enterprise. It does not look like it fits with the original Prime timeline. Now, if this is the Kelvin timeline, it would fit fine. But if it's supposed to fit before the other timeline, it doesn't work. The uniforms are too polished. They look like they came from the Kelvin timeline. The badges look like they're from the Kelvin timeline. It's just a lot of there's the lens flare look. There's the polished, the bridge. If it wasn't so shiny and wasn't so like lens flary and like trying to be sci-fi realistic with it, it would fit after Enterprise to some degree. But even like the view screen stuff, their spacesuits don't even look like they fit with the Abrams verse. Like they look more advanced than what we saw in Star Trek First Contact when Picard went on the ship with Data and the other lieutenant. It's I don't know. It's way too polished to fit in that time span. None of this. I mean, it looks all right, but I can't see it fitting before Kirk. And I think that's my big problem with it. It's like it's trying to shove, and then they have those ugly Klingons from the Abrams verse. So I know they want to call it Kelvin timeline. I'm calling it the Abrams verse. It's totally his design. Yeah, so none of this actually fits with before the original series. It's very much an Abrams verse looking show. Not that I have a problem with the Abrams verse, but I really hate the Klingons. And I hate that they're trying to shove this square peg into a round hole. It doesn't fit. It's like them trying to do what DC did in the New 52 and make so Batman was only at it 5 years, but somehow he still had Nightwing, Red Robin, Red Hood, and Damian all in that time span, and there's no way that it actually fits. So, to me, that's what I'm seeing in this instance. It's just not. I want to like it, I really do, but the more I watch this teaser, the more it bothers me because of the timeline aspect. If they had just said it was a Star Trek show and just kind of not tried to say that it was before Kirk, I think that's where it's like damaging to my brain as far as the timeline aspect. I wish they would have just left it alone or made it come out later, around the time of, like I said before, the Enterprise B, and between, even around the Enterprise C timeline, because we know nothing about that timeline, and I've said that many times. It would fit really well there because nobody's seen it. It's not something that's common. It's more polished than First Contact was. It looks more fake than First Contact, but it's more polished, and that's kind of a problem for me. So yeah, that's my thought on that. The other thing that dropped too was the young Sheldon first look, and they started out with 30 seconds of the Big Bang Theory, and then they have this young kid playing Sheldon with a train, and timed something perfectly, with this model train set. You get to see Sheldon's dad. You get to see Sheldon at age 9 with his family. The lady they cast as the mother fits really well into the role. And then you get the brother and the sister, which they casted all these people perfectly for their future look. But yeah, the show, I'm not gonna watch it. The kid almost looks like he's, and it took me a minute to find that out, but as I'm reviewing it for conversation right now, because they have Sheldon age 9 going to high school, the kid looks like he's from Problem Child, like the same face, even though he's not a redhead. It looks like it could be that kid's from Problem Child, like his son in this. I'm curious to find that out now. I almost want to look. But I'm not gonna watch this. It's another, like, they're trying to do the middle type of thing, and it's definitely a one camera type of show, and it's not a multi-camera. It's very much like everything else that's coming out now. So I'm gonna leave that alone. Seth MacFarlane has a comedy drama series coming called The Orville. On, I'm not quite sure what channel, but they have. The funny thing about this show is they show the spaceships and everything, and it looks like they could fit in any era of Star Trek other than the original series. And it looks like it fits better than... Like, this almost looks like it could have fit better than Discovery does before Kirk, in a sense, just based on the color palette and the designs. And then they've got Professor Stein in it as like a Commodore giving Seth MacFarlane's character a ship, and they're like, yeah, we're kind of short on captains, so we're giving you a ship. And the bridge, funny enough, looks almost TNG on the ceiling, but it's almost got like some of the original series like hokiness to it, so it actually looks interesting and neat. John Favreau's directing the first episode, it looks like. They've got some characters that look like Klingons. They've got some other characters in it look like Bajorans, in a sense. And they have the one chick from... she was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And held the batons. I can't remember her name right now. It's Adrienne Padalecki. Who's the first officer, supposed to be the ex-wife of Seth MacFarlane's character. It looks like it's going to be actually... I would rather almost watch this than Star Trek Discovery, which is pretty sad, saying that I'd rather watch a spoof of Star Trek than actual Star Trek. But there's just too much that bothers me with the new show. So, yeah, I'm probably going to check it out at least. I'll still check the other one out. And then, of course, ABC canceled Last Man Standing, which, if you're getting into the politics of it, I'm sure that's quite possibly one of the reasons why, despite its successful ratings, it got canned. Because it's one of the few like conservative type shows. And there's a lot of liberal type shows that are out there. But that aside, leaving the politics out of it, it seems like all the stations, and my teacher even kind of brought this up, that I guess I shouldn't say my teacher because he's not my teacher anymore, but my college professor that I had when I was going through the program kind of brought up the fact that a lot of the multi-camera sitcoms are going by the wayside because they cost too much money, not only because of the actors, but because of the amount of production and cameras that they need for the show. And so in that aspect, like in the monetary aspect, I can definitely see why all of them are getting canceled, with the exception of like Big Bang Theory. Because that one's like a megaton hit, no matter which way you look at it. That's why it keeps getting renewed. I'm sure if it wasn't so far along and wasn't such a hit, and it's not and the fact that it's Chuck Lorre doing it, I'm sure that would be canceled too. So I mean, ABC just went through the wayside, just blew away a lot of their multi-camera sitcoms, and CBS did the same thing. So Last Man Standing is not the Last Man Standing because Big Bang Theory is. So yeah. So with all the shows that I watch that are on now hiatus, it's kind of nice because I'll get to refresh and reboot over the summer, and I won't have to pick up any new shows, as I mentioned in the previous episode with Tio and Mike, and pretty much just watch the like Lethal Weapon and all my superhero shows and Big Bang Theory, and that's pretty much it. I don't really have any other new shows that I'm looking forward to that are coming this fall. And I've dropped a majority of the shows I did watch. And, it's kind of winding down for me on some of the TV content. I've more so been watching some movies, rewatching shows that I used to watch. I've been frequenting all the different Star Trek series on Netflix. More so because I got back into it because of Star Trek Online, but now I'm going back and rewatching, and the more I watch, like TOS, TNG, TNG still has a little bit of that hokiness, but the story is a lot better than the original series. DS9 is a lot more polished, and Voyager has a lot more kind of random stuff going on. Enterprise definitely looks more archaic in a sense, because it's very like battle military, like it's not polished starship in a sense, and Star Trek's the original series isn't polished either. But that's, the more I've watched TNG, the more I've discovered that that Discovery just doesn't fit with any of it. So the internet is kind of full of things, and I mentioned this in the previous episode that I had started the annoying thing of the week. Well, this was actually the episode that was supposed to come out prior. But I didn't have it fully recorded yet, and so I opted to release the other one first and then this one. So this is actually the debut of the annoying word of the week. And the one that I've been seeing a lot lately is the adulting, and it drives me nuts. Because I've seen like the I adulted real hard today, and there's even, believe it or not, adulting school and classes in Portland, Maine for like millennials, and I find this to be the most ridiculous thing in the world. I just don't understand why. Yeah, this is the thing. They're saying that like college and technology have failed to teach the most basic skill, how to be an adult. When you grow up, you pay bills, and you can still live pretty much the same. I mean, things change. Like if you have kids and everything, and you get a house, and a lot more responsibility. But it's called taking responsibility, paying your bills, and working. There's or striving for something better, not settling for what you have, always for self-betterment. But the fact that there's college courses for all of this, it's just, I don't know. I'm baffled by a lot of these concepts, because honestly, if people just asked for help, or just kind of emulated what they see in the sense of people being an adult, it's not that hard. I mean, there are aspects that suck for sure, but it's not rocket science. I don't get it. But it's called, the definition of it is to do grown-up things and hold responsibilities such as a 9-to-5 job, a mortgage, rent, a car payment, or anything else that makes one think of grown-ups. Just the fact that they use the word adulting drives me nuts. It's like selfie or any of those other kind of weird words that I mentioned. Kind of jumping off that boat, I'm going to move over to something a little less annoying. There was a report that there are, and I guess this came out kind of last year in a sense, but it became something new in the news again. It says a historic cemetery in Slovenia has started offering motion-activated digital tombstones, complete with a 48-inch screen that show video and photos of deceased loved ones. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. And I'm also wondering how it's powered and how they intend on not having it kind of break down, in a sense. Yeah, it's... I didn't even know Slovenia was a country, but... Yeah, they show like these standing pinnacle towers, and they've got, you know, this digital tombstone thing going on. And it's an option now. It's disguised as a regular headstone, and an emotion center activates it, and apparently it can display video and photos of the deceased and will send audio to headphones in the future. They're built to withstand vandalism attempts in bad weather, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. It almost sounds kind of creepy, but I guess each one costs around $3,200 in American money, which is not that much more apparently than traditional markers. But yeah, it's interesting. It's almost to the degree of the body modification tech where they put the chips in your hands and that kind of stuff. But I'm not one of those people that thinks that this is necessary. Granted, traditional tombstones, they do wear away after time, even though they kind of polish them up now. But you're kind of... I mean, most of the time, especially in this era, people have stuff digitally anyway. The need to go to your tombstone and have it talk to you and display things is a little freaky. Especially when you're thinking of the fact that, say, you're in an entire graveyard and there's multiple people that are buried there with these. And you start walking past them to get to your loved one, and then all of a sudden all these random screens start popping on. It would just be really freaky when you're already in a graveyard where it's supposed to be like deathly silent anyway. It kind of creeps me out a little bit. It's kind of in my thoughts anyway, like another way to have. It's almost like you're trolling the people when you're in the ground, in a sense. I just find it kind of creepy. So. Yeah, so as far as, like, movie content news, there's Spider-Man Homecoming, Pirates of the Caribbean, all that stuff kind of floating around. Wonder Woman, Star Wars. They recently dropped some new Star Wars art with Rey and Luke and Leia and her daughter, and variety of other characters, Finn and Poe. Looks pretty interesting, like all these different covers that have dropped, and all these different graphics that are dropping for the film. I still can't wait for episode 8, but it's neither here nor there. So I think I'm going to draw this episode to a close. I do have Michael Powers coming up in a future episode, and Mike the Birdman Dodd, so be sure to stay tuned for those. In the meantime, if you have anything that you want me to talk about in a future episode, let me know. Are there any annoying words of the week that you'd like me to talk about, or annoying words that you think there are? Just comment in the section below. What movies are you looking forward to this summer? And yeah, are there any TV shows that you guys want to see that we mentioned last week or may not have mentioned based on my disinterest in it? So yeah, just let me know, and until next time, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.